Thanks a lot for joining us again. It's still TVC Breakfast, and it's time to talk about the power situation in the country. Well, lack of power isn't new to many Nigerians. In fact, the use of generators, inverters, torchlights, and lamps have become the norm. And just recently, the supply of megawatts to distribution companies, also called DisCos, sank to its lowest ebb, with some of them getting zero allocation. Power Minister Adebayo Adelabu has attributed the crisis to a decline in gas supply to the generating companies, those are the GenCos, while two DisCos have pointed fingers at system failures from the grid, as well as the issue of vandalism. Now, Mr. Adelabu has convened a meeting with the top management teams of GenCos and DisCos, aiming to address the challenges posed by the diminishing gas supply, and that's what we will be addressing. Joining us now via Zoom is Team Lead Platforms Africa, Adeola Yusuf. Good to see you again. And yes, this is a topic that has a long history on the show, especially with you. I wonder what your thoughts are on this cycle of grid failure.
Okay, thank you so much. It's rather so unfortunate that almost always we talk about this system failure, and almost always we hear, the same circle of complaint, assurance, and all that. I call it a cycle because we'll leave this, and in the next, few months, we may still come back to this and still discuss this, and we keep having the same assurances from government officials. Remember, it's important that I, paint some pictures around this one that just happened. This is the first time we are recording the grid collapse in the year 2024. And it's happening less than 35 days into the year. So that will tell you how much of this we should expect. In the last year, 2023, we recorded, 12 system failures, 12 grid collapse. And if you want to put this on the average, it means per month, every month we were recording, a system failure. And we keep having this same issue. It's important that it still notes that because this has to do with, engineering, it may not be out of place to expect issues about failure. But when it becomes so rampant, when it becomes something that happens almost all the time, it became something that is worrisome. Remember that, we usually have issues about government officials talking about this because when the privatization of the power sector happened, over 10 years ago, in 2003, Friday, November 1st, 2003, the three strata in the value chain of the power sector, which is the generation, the transmission, and the distribution were touched. But particularly the generation, was touched, the distribution was touched. But all that we recorded in the distribution was, government assurances and the promises to invest. For listeners and viewers to understand me properly, let me quickly paint a clearer picture. Before you go into your room and switch on, put on the switch that lights the bulb in your room, a lot of things must have happened. Three, strata, happen in that entire value chain. The first one is the generation, and as the name connotes, that is where the generation of electricity happen in gigawatts. And these generation companies, we have, majorly in Nigeria, two forms of power generation. We have the thermal, where the power is being generated through the gas. Then we have the hydro. Those are the two most popular in the country. But generally speaking, we have larger chunk of this power being generated from the gas. That's number one. Then number two, when immediately that power is generated, they cannot be used at that stage. You have to be channeled. You have to put through the transmission. And viewers, in Nigeria, you will see that on that transmission line, there are the skeletal looking power lines spread across the country. And, they have that capacity to convey that power. I told you that the power is being generated in higher megawatts. It can be so injurious to, human, anytime we have direct contact with it. So it has to be on that transmission, and they will transport it to the substations. And this substation, they have to step it down, a bit before they will now take it from that substation to, the transformers that we have in our various. And by the time it gets to this transformer, it has gotten to the hands of the distribution. And the distribution are the ones that we all interface with. The distribution company, the DisCos, 11 of them spread across the country. So it's when it gets to this distribution that they can now take it from that transformer into our various home. At that stage, it has been stepped down, into the level that can be consumed by human beings. Now, what happened on on November 1st, 2003, was that the government, privatized the generation, which is the start, which is the beginning of that value chain, and privatized the distribution, still leaving the transmission, which is the the link between the generation and the transmission, and the distribution. The government still left that in its armpit. Up till now, the government is still talking about, efforts to, privatize this or to invest in this. So most times, because we have privatized the generation, the capacity at the generation has improved tremendously. Because we have privatized the distribution, the capacity at the distribution has improved as well. But anytime the capacity at the generation, they generate and they want to put it into this national grid, because of lack of, fair investment and so many other factors, anytime overcapacity is put into this transmission, it collapses. Anytime we have below capacity into this, transmission, it collapses. So that has been described as the weak link between the generation and the distribution. So and so what made the government to always interfere anytime we have grid collapse is because this transmission is still in the armpit of the government. The one that just happened a few days ago, on February 4, the power minister has spoken about it. The transmission company of Nigeria has spoken about it. And what did they say? Because we have to believe what they have said. The transmission company of Nigeria blamed two things. The first one, they said that what was responsible for that was the tripping off of the surface substation and the Egbe substation. The second reason they blamed was that they said there was a reduction in the gas supply to the generation. I don't know how that that will affect the tripping or not. They are still trying to establish the link between these. But what we have was that it made this happen in a country of over 200 million people. The power, the various homes and the businesses, a lot of them that depend on electricity, suffered tremendously. Remember, from what the statement the TCN issued, they said that before that incident, the generation at that morning, by 8 a.m. on February 4, was over 3,000, about 3,900 megawatts. So immediately that system failure was recorded, because power is something that you cannot save. Once you generate it, you have to use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. So over 3,000, about 4,000 megawatts was lost that day. So we are not talking about, what the government has lost alone. Various homes, various businesses that depend on this, electricity, they suffer. But the most disheartening part of it is that, as someone that has covered this industry, I'm not very, very sure that this will be the last in this, year. Because, like I said earlier, we recorded 12 incidences in 2023. And like we usually have, the promises and the assurances, we are already having that as well. Whether this time around we should be more optimistic and more, patriotic to believe that this will not happen, will be left for all Nigerians and viewers that, watching us.
Well, that's right. So hearing one thing and believing is another thing. You also spoke to the fact that they said that gas constraints continue to impact the grid flexibility and stability. But what can we do to ensure that we have stable gas supply in order to power generating, sufficient gas supply to power generating stations. How crucial do you think this is for our grid stability?
Okay, thank you so much, and I have to personally thank you for the way you started this, question. There's that, huge gulf between, issuing a statement and Nigerians believing in that statement. So let's just believe that the power, the gas supply is another cause, as stated by TCN. Remember that anytime we want to, explain things in Nigeria, we bring up another issue that, will make people that understand that sector to keep worrying and worrying. Remember that as they are issuing that statement to blame gas, huge volume of gas is being fled in virtually all the acreages in the Niger Delta. Remember that almost always the government keep talking about efforts that they have made on gas. Remember that 2000 was declared, we had a decade of gas declaration. Before that, we have a year of gas. Before that, we have a lot of, issues, a lot of plans and all that. Remember that, for a long time, we are having a minister sitting on gas as we speak, because the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his effort to make sure that he sees to this gas issue, appointed a minister of state for petroleum resources, gas. You understand? So all these ones, are happening, and we still want to blame gas. We remember, we all understand that, gas, requires a lot of investment, infrastructure, and all that. But I'm aware that a lot have been put in place. I think what ought to be done at this stage is to, go back to the drawing board. Look at how the government keep, blaming gas, and keep assuring Nigerians that, things will be done about this. And government, as, experience have, shown, has not been able to achieve, all those, because if they achieve all those that they have, highlighted, we won't keep, still, blaming the gas supply and gas constraint. Remember that at the end of that statement by TCN, when I read that statement, I kept wondering, because after blaming all those two things, they still said that, okay, they're still going to investigate. I don't know why you blame and later go back to investigate. You understand? So, but fact of the matter is that all those Dogo trench, all those grammar, Nigerians are less concerned about that grammar. What they want at this moment is that power, a power grid to stop collapsing. Whether government wants to privatize it, sell a part of it to a private entity or private, concern is another thing. A lot of people have, clamored for that. But government should go to drawing board and be sincere with approach that they want to use to this. Even before, before talking about all this grid collapse and all that, Nigerians, over 50% of Nigerians are not connected to the grid. What that means is that there is no direct supply from the grid to, about over 75 million Nigerians, over 75 million Nigerians. They don't have grid connection into their homes. They depend on maybe the lantern, or they depend on the power generator. And those that are even connected, that very small number of people that are connected to the national grid, are always, suffering deficit, at times, zero distribution, this power to their homes. And what that will mean is that despite the fact that they have this power grid, this line connected to their homes, almost every time you see the sound of generators in their homes. Maybe a lot of Nigerians watching us may be watching us with the head of their power generation generators on as we speak. So all those things are too much for Nigerians to bear. What the country, the people of the country want, because it's affecting their lives, the entire value chain. Someone has said that the way oxygen is to human beings is the way energy is, to living. Because if you don't have energy, there won't be progress. Even if you are investing in okay, imagine someone that is using power generator as a barber, or that is operating a hairdressing salon, or so many other small scale businesses like that. We have to buy a liter of petrol at how much to power those generators? So how much will the person going to get as return on investment? What will be the revenue of the power? So a lot of people are just working. There's no, revenue. There's no profit. They just keep working so that people will not see them as being lazy around. So fact of the matter is that the government has blamed the gas. We want to believe that, okay, maybe gas has been responsible. Some country that has, sufficient, some people have even said that oil was discovered in Nigeria by accident, but Nigeria is a gas heaven. What that means is that we have more gas in the country than crude oil that a lot of people even know to have. So we have gas deposits. We have those that we call associated gas, those that come up while they are exploring or producing oil that are being fled every day. So a lot of things, if you keep blaming or explaining, you keep creating another issue, bringing up another issue, that will make Nigerians to keep wondering what exactly we are doing about all this.
And then the federal government is also citing the challenge of vandalism as, a persistent culprit in this issue of grid collapses. What are your thoughts on, how formidable this threat really is and what the government needs to do?
Okay, thank you so much. Like I said in my remarks earlier, when something has to do with engineering, there is no way you will not, have, incidences of error, incidences of, maybe attack, incidences that, okay, of course, even our cars, you may warm your car in the morning, in the next 5 minutes, you want to ignite it and the car will not work. So there are, incidents that could happen. But we all know this. When it keeps happening almost all the time, that is when it becomes an issue. I said it earlier, very, very soon we will still talk about this grid collapse. We still talk about another collapse. The reason has been that for 12 times last year we were talking about this. For 12 times last year this happened. Now to talk about this vandalism, we all understand that there's no way there can be sabotage. We have these major incidents of vandalism in the northeast. Borno State, for instance, and some part of, Ogun State, we recorded, according to the TCN, the vandalism. But fact that we have to establish is that as much as we have this vandalism, it is still the responsibility of government to make sure that things are done, to investigate, to get to the root of the matter and address that permanently. Like we usually say, as it affects the oil sector, it affects the power sector. There is that 3 C's that government needs to, keep using as a template. The first one is, government needs to show commitment to whatever it does. It's appearing to Nigerians, despite the fact that because I have to establish it, the people in government are Nigerians too, and they have families too that, suffer this. Not that they are not doing anything. We have to establish that. But when what they are doing is not showing, is either they need to change, people that are doing it, maybe those that they put there to do it, or they change the strategy that they are, they are using. Everyone cannot just be looking at it and, assume that should be our fate. I don't believe that, consistent or permanent grid collapse should be the fate of Nigeria. And now I was talking about the government to show that commitment. The second one is communication. The government should keep communicating to the people. Anytime there is a sabotage, a sabotage, or anytime the saboteurs have gone to vandalize all this, the government should communicate to people.
Right.
You will observe, even though we not agree, at the distribution end of the value chain, if there is any issue with power supply, those DisCos, at least I know those in Lagos and in Abuja, they usually issue statements in that event.
I'm afraid we've run out of time, and that's all the time that we have, for this topic. Adeola Yusuf, Team Lead Platforms Africa, thanks again for your brilliant insights on this burning issue.
It's my pleasure always. Thanks for having me.